At my retirement party, my son stood up and said, "Thanks for teaching me what not to be." Everyone laughed, including my wife. I just nodded, finished my cake, and left without a word. That was 8 months ago. This morning, he was crying outside my apartment, screaming, "Please just open the door." I didn't say a word. Just sipped my lukewarm decaf, stared at the slice of marble cake half smeared on the paper plate, and smiled while everyone around me laughed at my expense. The balloon said, "Happy retirement, Jim," but it felt more like a roast I never signed up for. You know what hit hardest? The laughter wasn't mean. It wasn't sharp. It was casual. Pitying. The kind of laughter people give when they think they've already figured out who you are. 8 months ago, I retired from a 32-year career in logistics. Not flashy. Not glamorous. But it paid the bills, kept us fed, and built a life. I'd worked the night shift more times than I could count, missed birthdays and barbecues, learned to fall asleep with the sound of forklifts and trucks in my ears. I thought my family understood that. Turns out, they were just waiting to reframe my entire life as a cautionary tale. My son, Ethan, 27, startup consultant, probably allergic to a 40-hour workweek, stood up at the mic and said, "Thanks for teaching me what not to be, Dad. I love you, but I learned what not to settle for by watching you." The room went quiet for half a second. Then someone laughed. Then another. Then the whole table. Even my wife, Cheryl, gave one of those tight little chuckles, her hand covering her mouth like she was embarrassed for me, not by me. I didn't react. Just nodded. Took a bite of the damn cake. Looked out the window at the parking lot. And when the party ended, I didn't get in the family car. I walked 4 blocks, called a cab, and disappeared. No dramatic scene. No slammed doors. No angry speeches. I just left. The first 2 months were numb. I rented a studio in the bad part of town, cash from my severance, a fake name on the lease. Cheryl didn't even call. Not once. Ethan sent one text, "If this is your little silent treatment stunt, grow up." I blocked him. I spent most days at the public library, not reading, just sitting. Watching people come and go. Eating vending machine crackers. I watched dads carry toddlers on their shoulders, students stress over finals, couples whisper across laptops. And I thought, none of them have any idea how easy it is to become invisible. The rest of the time I walked. Rain or shine. Every alley, every block. I memorized the neighborhood like a soldier prepping for war. The man at the corner deli started saving the good sandwiches for me. The woman with the pit bull on 17th started nodding instead of flinching. And slowly, I started living again. I got a part-time job fixing antique radios at this hole-in-the-wall electronics shop. The owner, Arthur, is 73, grumpy as hell, and trusts no one. But I showed up early, left late, never stole a dime. After 3 weeks, he handed me a key. Said nothing. Didn't have to. We understood each other. Then came the twist. 3 months ago, I opened a new checking account. Needed ID, proof of address, basic stuff. I used the mailbox I'd rented and a piece of mail Arthur had signed for me. A week later, the teller handed me a manila envelope. It had my name on it. My full name. Not the alias. Inside? Photos. Of Cheryl. With another man. Multiple locations. Restaurants. Hotel lobbies. One of them even showed her holding hands outside a financial advisor's office, my old one. And a note, handwritten, "She's not even waiting for you to die." No signature. No return address. I stared at those pictures all night. Not in anger. In curiosity. You see, I'd suspected it. For years. Long before Ethan's speech. The late nights. The phone face down at dinner. The girls' weekends that never had photos. But I never pushed. Never asked. Because I didn't want the answer. Turns out, the truth doesn't wait for an invitation. I called the financial advisor's office. Asked to speak with Greg, the guy Cheryl and I used when planning for retirement. The receptionist said he no longer worked there. Guess who took over? The man in the photos. Turns out Cheryl moved our shared assets into a private fund 4 months before my retirement. Used her power of attorney from a surgery I had back in 2018 to reroute access. I never noticed. She wasn't just moving on. She was repositioning. So I made a decision. I sold my truck. Cashed in an old 401k I'd forgotten about. Used the funds to hire a forensic accountant I found through a Reddit thread of all places. Guy named Felix, young, twitchy, brilliant. He found everything. Hidden accounts. Transfers. Loans taken out in my name. Cheryl had been prepping for a clean exit. Ethan had even signed off on one of the fake loan documents as a witness. They weren't just laughing at me. They were erasing me. Last week, I went to the house. Not to confront them. To document. Photos of new furniture. Mail piling up from companies I'd never heard of. Even the dog, my dog, Lucy, acted like she didn't know me when I whistled from the sidewalk. I left the divorce papers on the porch. Uncontested. Clean. Efficient. With one clause. If Cheryl agreed not to fight the terms, I'd walk away quietly. But if she pushed? Felix had a binder with every transaction, signature, and lie. I didn't hear anything for days. Then, yesterday afternoon, I got a single email from Cheryl. Subject line, fine. No body. Just, fine. Which brings us to this morning. Rain tapping the window. My coffee maker sputtering like always. I was just about to flip on the little TV Arthur let me borrow when I heard it. A pounding. Then a voice. Hi. Cracked. Dad? Please, just open the door. I looked through the peephole. Ethan. Crying. Full on meltdown. Slumped on the hallway carpet like a toddler. I didn't open it. Not yet. Because behind him? A domino line of fallout I haven't even touched yet. The truth? My son was right. I did teach him what not to be. But not in the way he thought. Update 1. I opened the door. He was crying, but not for the reason I thought. I waited 7 minutes before opening the door. I don't know why that number felt right, but it did. I watched my son sob through the peephole for the first 3, pacing for the next 2, and sitting with my hand on the doorknob for the final 2, breathing like a guy about to defuse a bomb. And maybe I was. Because Ethan didn't just show up crying. He showed up destroyed. When I opened the door, I expected a rehearsed apology. Maybe crocodile tears. Maybe some half-hearted version of Dad, I didn't know. What I got instead was a 27-year-old man collapsing at my feet. Please, he said between gasps. You have to help me. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I messed up. Just help me. I didn't speak. Just stepped aside. He dragged himself in like someone who'd been running for weeks and finally hit a wall. Hair wild. Tie undone. Eyes bloodshot. This wasn't just about guilt. This was panic. I handed him a towel and pointed to the sink. He poured himself water like he'd never seen it before, then sat on the second-hand couch I'd rescued from a street corner. And then, piece by piece, the story came out. Turns out Ethan hadn't come because of the divorce. He hadn't even known about it until 2 days ago. No, the reason he showed up at my door broke, shaking, desperate, was because Cheryl, my wife of 32 years, and his mother had taken every last cent out of their shared family fund account. An account that Ethan had been dumping money into for years. See, what I didn't know was that Cheryl had spun Ethan the same story she was feeding our financial advisor, that I was mentally unwell, paranoid, and couldn't be trusted with retirement funds. She told Ethan I'd been erratic for years. That I might leave. That I was the one hiding money. And like a fool, he believed her. He even started funneling part of his own salary into an account she controlled. Said it was for family security. Said he was doing his part. The account had $118,000. As of 3 days ago? Empty. Gone. Wiped. He didn't even know until a check bounced. Then another. Then the card declined at a gas station. He tried calling Cheryl. No answer. Tried going to the house. It was empty. Furniture gone. Garage cleaned out. Even Lucy, the dog, was gone. That's when he snapped. Checked the divorce papers I'd left behind and found Felix's business card paperclipped to the back. Called him. Felix wouldn't say much but apparently said one sentence that sent Ethan spiraling. You'll want to talk to your father. So now he was here. Looking at me like I held the answers to a test he never studied for. I let him talk. I didn't yell. Didn't gloat. Didn't say, I told you so. I just listened. And the more I listened, the more I realized something terrifying. My son hadn't just made a mistake. He'd been groomed. By his own mother. Cheryl had been laying the groundwork for years. Subtle digs. Comments about how I never really planned for the future. Jokes about my paranoia when I triple-checked our financial statements. She'd painted herself as the victim so effectively that Ethan thought he was saving her. Turns out she was saving herself. From both of us. The worst part? The man in the photos? The one she was holding hands with outside the financial firm? That wasn't just a fling. That was her new husband. Legally married. In Nevada. 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I only found out because Ethan, shaking, pulled out his phone and opened her Instagram. She blocked me but not him. There she was. White dress. Beachside. Caption, starting over. Starting fresh. Finally free. Hashtag no regrets. I nearly laughed. She'd orchestrated the entire thing like a symphony. Played Ethan and me against each other until she had full control, then vanished with a new man, a clean legal slate, and nearly $120,000 in post-tax income. But here's the thing. She made one mistake. She didn't know about Felix. And Felix? Was already 4 steps ahead. When I told him Cheryl had vanished, he said one word, good. Turns out he'd been running a shadow audit ever since she moved the funds. Found offshore accounts. Found paper trails from her new husband that traced back to shell corporations, one of which was flagged for fraud back in 2017. Cheryl didn't just marry a new man. She married a con man. And now? They're on the run. Felix said we let her think she won. But we were always watching. I asked him what our options were. His reply? We don't go after her. We go after the money. So now the game changes. Ethan's living on my couch. For now. He's quiet. Ashamed. Keeps apologizing even when I tell him to stop. Last night he broke down again, not about the money but about the party. I thought I was being clever, he said. Like I was saying something profound. I didn't realize I was just parroting her. I told him the truth. You were. But I also told him something else. You don't get to fix the past. But you do get to choose what you do next. And what we're doing next is building a case. Not for revenge. For recovery. Because Cheryl didn't just take our money. She tried to erase us both. And now? She gets to learn what it feels like to be found. Update 2. She thought she was gone for good, then we found the marriage license. And a digital trail she never saw coming. Let me start by saying this. Felix is terrifying. Not in a movie villain way, not some hacker in a hoodie living off Mountain Dew and energy shots, but in the I know things about you that even you forgot kind of way. It started with a shoebox. Monday morning, a package showed up at Arthur's repair shop. No return label, just a smudge of rain on a brown cardboard box and my name scrawled in thick Sharpie. Arthur doesn't ask questions, just handed it over and went back to pretending his AM radio was just fine even though it only played static. Inside the box? A manila folder. A flash drive. And a marriage license. Her marriage license. Cheryl Catherine Manning and Brandon Elias Thorne, married in Clark County, Nevada. Dated 12 days after she signed our divorce papers. Witness signature? A name I didn't recognize. But the venue? Desert Chapel Express. The same one Felix flagged last week for processing a spike in expedited elopements tied to offshore shell companies. And the flash drive? That's where it got real? Felix had been digging through Brandon's digital footprint since the day I showed him the photos. He didn't just run a background check. He ran a reverse persona trace, think financial records cross-referenced with fake LinkedIn profiles, crypto wallet patterns, even dating app IPs. Turns out Brandon Elias Thorne has also gone by Eli T. Ransom, Brent Holtzman, Evan Del Rose, and one glorious pseudonym, Cash Montana. Let that one marinate. Cheryl married a man who once listed his occupation as lifestyle arbitrager. But the scary part? Felix found at least 3 women who had reported Brandon, Eli, Brent to different state authorities. Fraud. Romance scams. Financial coercion. But each time he disappeared before the lawsuits could land. Felix thinks Cheryl was supposed to be the next clean slate. But she flipped the game. According to new bank records, most of them accessed through a backdoor Felix wouldn't explain, Cheryl wasn't just running away with Brandon. She was bankrolling him. As in, she was the one doing the stealing this time. See, when Cheryl gutted the family fund Ethan was dumping money into, she didn't wire it offshore. She wired it into a Nevada-based holding company under her name. And Brandon's name was nowhere near it. That's why Felix smiled when I called him about the marriage license. Because Cheryl had unknowingly given us everything we needed. Legal proof of a fast-tracked marriage. A paper trail of solo bank activity tied to accounts she'd opened in her maiden name. And best of all, a digital transaction log from an iPad Felix had remotely cloned after scraping metadata from a rental agreement Brandon used 3 aliases ago. That iPad was Cheryl's. And it had one fatal habit. Auto-syncing notes. Let me read you one. It's dated a week before she drained Ethan's account. Timeline still holds. Final transfer Friday. Be an eye out by Sunday. Jim won't know until the papers are dry. Ethan won't question it, he thinks I'm protecting him. I'll let Brandon handle the rest once we're gone. Worst case, I frame it as an emotional breakdown if the boys come sniffing. Yeah, she planned everything. My retirement party? That was part of the soft sabotage. She encouraged Ethan to speak from the heart, framed it like some therapeutic closure moment. And Ethan, gullible and eager to impress her, walked right into it. He's read the note now. 3 times. He hasn't said much since. I think part of him shattered permanently. So what are we doing now? We're setting a trap. Not for Cheryl, not directly. She's already halfway through a collapse of her own making. But for Brandon. See, we've already located the holding company. Felix has a friend, paralegal turned data auditor, who traced a recent luxury condo rental in Miami back to a purchase made by that shell company. The condo's owner? You guessed it. Cheryl. But Brandon's name isn't on anything. Which makes it really interesting that he's using the property as his own. Posting photos on private Instagram accounts. Booking business strategy retreats with women under 30. And most damning? He applied for a business line of credit under Cheryl's new legal name without her power of attorney. That, my friends, is fraud. And because Cheryl's technically the owner on paper, she's liable. Unless she flips. That's where update 2 ends. Because right now, Felix is writing a letter. A very polite, very cold, very legally airtight letter. To Cheryl. Explaining that unless she turns over Brandon's full financial records, including crypto transactions and offshore ties, within 5 business days, we'll file for restitution and fraud under civil statute. She's not just facing a lawsuit. She's facing joint liability with a serial scam artist. And Ethan? He's going to testify. Not for me. Not against her. But for himself. Because the story he was fed his entire life just exploded and now he wants a chance to tell his own. Update 3, he was half naked, wearing my watch in my wife's condo. So I sat down in his kitchen and waited for him to notice. Let me paint the scene for you. It's 2:13 p.m. on a Tuesday in Miami. Hot enough to cook sidewalk eggs, humid enough to make breathing feel like drinking air. Felix and I are standing outside a glass high-rise that looks like every tech bro's vision board come to life, sleek, soulless, pretending to matter. Unit 2906. Purchased under Cheryl's maiden name, financed through a shell company she created using a Wyoming LLC with ties to a Vegas address neither of us had ever visited. Felix found it all. Even timed the utility bill patterns to confirm when the unit was actually occupied. Brandon was there. Alone. Because Cheryl? She took the deal? Rewind. 2 days after our last update, Cheryl responded to Felix's letter. Well, not Cheryl herself. Her new lawyer. Some Miami silk-suited shark with a name like a yacht club appetizer, Prescott Crane 3, or something equally punchable. The email said, "My client is willing to cooperate under the condition that your party agrees to indemnify her from any future claims related to Mr. Thorne's financial activities prior to August 2024. Translation, she'll flip if you keep her out of prison." We agreed. With one caveat. She had to sign everything in person. Not because we needed it legally. Because I wanted to look her in the eye when she gave up the man she threw us away for. The meeting was short. Hotel conference room. Neutral ground. Felix at my side, Ethan behind me. Cheryl walked in wearing sunglasses indoors and a $2,000 blouse she probably couldn't afford. Her hands trembled. Just slightly. We presented the documents. Explained what came next. She asked if this would make her the villain. Felix replied, "You're not the villain. You're just the accessory." She signed. 3 strokes of a pen. And with that, Brandon Elias Thorne became our target. So there we were. Unit 2906. The door code? 1993. The year Cheryl and I got married. Twisted, right? I used the key fob Felix cloned from a digital lock sync Cheryl forgot to disconnect. Walked into my former wife's new life and found the man she left me for wearing my watch. A vintage Hamilton she claimed was lost in the move. He was standing in the kitchen, shirtless, smoothie in hand, scrolling through his phone like the world owed him something. Didn't even notice me at first. Not until I pulled out the dining chair and sat down like I owned the place. Because technically, I did. His eyes snapped up. Confused. Then cautious. Then smug. "Who the hell are you?" I didn't answer. Just smiled. "That's my watch," I said. He looked down. "You've got the wrong." Felix walked in behind me, briefcase in hand. "Brandon Elias Thorne. Or is it Eli Ransom today? We're serving you notice." We laid out the papers. Fraud charges. Civil suit. Injunctions filed that morning to freeze the account tied to the condo. Brandon laughed. Actually laughed. "This won't stick," he said. "You can't prove a damn thing." That's when Ethan walked in. Phone in hand. Playing a voice memo. Cheryl's voice. "He thinks the accounts are in his name. Idiot couldn't file a tax form without me. He's just a placeholder until the dust settles." The look on Brandon's face? Like watching someone realize the parachute is just a backpack. We didn't wait long. Security showed up 30 minutes later. Felix tipped them off in advance. Civil enforcement, not cops. Brandon wasn't arrested. Not yet. But the locks were changed. The condo? Frozen. The funds? Seized. And Cheryl? She's cooperating with a federal inquiry. Because Felix handed her immunity for our suit. Not theirs. The fraud angle triggered a deeper probe. Turns out Brandon had ties to a crypto laundering ring 2 layers below the surface. He's not going away for life, but he is going away. We're not pressing criminal charges. We don't have to. Sometimes the legal system does what you can't. And Ethan? He's testifying. Not for me. For himself. So what now? The money's not all back, but most of it is. Felix negotiated a deal that returned Ethan's full contributions plus interest. My name is officially cleared on every document Cheryl tried to forge. My credit's back. My retirement account is intact. And me? I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm just free. Epilogue. Ethan moved out last week. Got a small apartment 2 neighborhoods over. Says he wants to live honestly, quietly, and without needing to impress anyone. We grab lunch once a week now. Not because we have to. Because we want to. Cheryl? I don't know where she is. I don't care. Last I heard, she was trying to get a consulting job in Arizona under a new name. She's already made herself invisible. Fitting. Arthur's shop is still open. I work weekends now. Rebuilding old radios. Fixing what's broken. Finding the signal under all the static. Feels poetic. The studio apartment? I've kept it. Updated the couch. Bought a new coffee maker. One morning, Ethan came over and pointed to the microwave. "You still haven't replaced that," he said. I just smiled. Some things are worth keeping. Reminds me of who I used to be. Because here's the truth. Revenge? It's not a single act. It's a process. A reclamation. A quiet, methodical rebuild until the people who buried you forget where they left the shovel. And one day, they look up. And you're holding the blueprint to the life they thought you could never build. So here I am. Living it. Piece by piece. Signal by signal. And if she ever tries to come back, she'll find the door locked. And me? Already gone.